Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is February 18th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. You can see Hawaii is down here. You got Alaska, Washington, Oregon here. Check out this high pressure system out here across Pacific here. It's going to move back across the area here and allow some colder air to start to move down into the Pacific Northwest as we go on in through early next week. That's the big story here everybody wants to know about. We'll take a look at those details. We have some poor model disagreement on exactly what's coming in the upper air trajectory as well. So we'll take a look at those details also. And as you can see here, this cutoff low sliding down the coast of California, just like the models said it would, mainly leaving California alone. Not much precipitation at all for the state, maybe as it ejects back towards the east here, a little bit for Southern California. But down across Hawaii here as well, you see some moisture moving up over the area. Some heavy rains have been plaguing the islands here for the last few days. And you can see that circulation here with that Kona low. It's now just kind of low level. It doesn't have any deep convection associated with it anymore, just kind of caught up in that easterly low-level trade flow across the region there. But yeah, it brought some pretty crazy winds out there. If you flew back and forth from Hawaii the last few days, you probably experienced some of that turbulence, especially out towards the islands there. Some pretty wild rides out there if you were flying. Now, taking a look here, this is from the National Weather Service Sioux Falls out there, but it's a good graphic and something to remember here. Verify your sources, avoid clickbait, rumor control, be wary of exaggerated forecasts, etc. Check back here, check with your National Weather Service local offices as well. So you can see, watch out for those outdated graphics too. Sometimes you'll see on Twitter or social media, you'll see things that are a day or two old. So just be aware of those type of issues. Now, this is for National Weather Service Spokane out there. Watch out for some wintry travel coming up here as we go through this pattern change. You can see some big snows coming from Snoqualmie and Stevens Pass here. Lookout Pass possible as well. Nice graphic here from the National Weather Service Spokane. Now, first look at things here. This is the European on the left. This is the GFS on the right. This is last night's run 06E. We're comparing them. You can see the Gulf of Alaska here. There's Washington, Oregon, British Columbia over here where my mouse is showing. And again, the European here is on the left. So put that into motion. You can see this ridge just dominating out over the Pacific here, but then it starts to back up a bit. And you can see this troughing opening up. And you can see the GFS, the trough is deeper out over the Gulf of Alaska shown here. And you can see it allows for some better cold air to get into the region here. And we'll take a look at the other models here in a moment as well. But, you know, you have a hard time if you bet against the European if you're a meteorologist here. It can make it tough for you here versus the GFS. So right now we're still kind of leaning towards what the European is showing here. Not a true Arctic outbreak coming for the area here, but it's definitely going to get chillier either way. Now, taking a look at this, NAM 12KM versus the GFS. We just saw the GFS over here, and you can kind of see how the NAM is actually introducing more cold air than even the GFS did, and the European much less than the GFS. So it's pretty good model discrepancy here. And again, this is 500 millibars, 18,000 feet, the upper air trajectory, and you need it to come off the coastline a bit here. You want some cyclogenesis. You want a storm to develop there so it can tap some colder air aloft and create deformation bands and all kinds of good stuff here if you want that lowland snow west of the Cascades. And what the European is showing, kind of limits that activity, but some of the other models are showing a little bit better trajectory and more cold air moving into the region, as you can see with the NAM 12KM shown here. Now, let's look at the GFS here, the latest run versus itself. Actually, let's redo this here, and we'll compare it versus the previous. There we go. So now let's put this into motion, and you can see this morning's run kind of cut back a little bit on the amount of cold air getting down. The GFS is going to have been pulling away a little bit in the amount of cold air going towards the European there. So that's why it gives you kind of cause for concern when you're looking at the NAM and it shows a bigger polar lobe over the region. Is that accurate? Snow lovers can wish for it, but it doesn't make it true. So we'll just continue to watch it here over the next 2 days. But it doesn't like a huge Arctic outbreak is on its way here. We're just not getting the good setup here off the coastline for big snowfalls west of the Cascades, as I've mentioned. Now look at the Canadian versus the German model on the right. So Canadian is on the left, 18,000 feet. This is this morning's hot off the presses. There goes that ridge dominating our weather. And here goes that polar lobe opening up across the area here. And you can kind of see it's fairly, it's not too bad here on the Canadian, but it's still kind of a short trajectory offshore and back in. So we're not getting that great trajectory even on some of these model runs here. But you can see the German model is actually pretty chilly here as we go on in through midweek. It throws a pretty good polar lobe down across the region there. But again, this is not as reliable as what the European generally shows. Now, taking a look here, this is last night's European run total snow and Kuchera ratio in inches. Just in motion, you can see the big snowfalls coming for the Cascades as we go on in through Sunday. Look at this North Cascades just really getting hammered here. Then it starts in for the South Cascades and the Oregon Cascades by the time you go into Tuesday afternoon shown here. And you can see the Blue Mountains getting the action, the Rocky Mountains up through British Columbia as well. And then as we go into Tuesday night, you see some of the snowfall coming around the Puget Sound here, maybe a little bit down the I-5 corridor again towards Portland here. A little bit of flakes flying across the Willamette Valley possible as well. And you can see there are some areas of some heavier snowfall showing up here, up towards Everett, Marysville, Whidbey Island there. Shouldn't Seattle get, an inch and a half there? We'll see how this trends as we go, and it'll be a welcome sight to see some of the high resolution models come into range, although they usually don't handle snow amounts that much. We're trying to pinpoint which areas might be favored. It's even some of the coastline of Washington showing up, getting a little bit of snowfall here as well. But you can see the huge amounts coming for the mountains here. Watch out for those winter driving conditions as we go on in through mid and later next week. Go all the way up to the 10-day period, and you can see some of these huge totals out there across the Cascades. Look at Paradise, Mount Rainier up over 100 inches. Big snows coming for the Oregon Cascades, British Columbia Olympic Mountains there as well. And we have the potential for some more snow as we go out into the extended forecast. Not really worth looking at right now. Confidence is going to be low. We'll focus on those individual details as we go. But look at some of eastern Washington too as well. Might even get on the snow action here as we go on in through this week as well. As you can see, places out towards Moses Lake maybe picking up a few inches if they're lucky out there. So we'll see how this goes. Maybe the Tri-Cities as well. Spokane looks like it might get a decent snowfall out of this event also. Now, taking a look here, I want to show North America. This is 2-meter temperature anomaly in Celsius here. I just want to show you what's kind of coming up, what to expect temperature-wise. As you can see, this colder air really start to take up residence here across British Columbia and Alberta, and mainly, of course, you see that terrain feature with the Rocky Mountains there. But you can see the west getting pretty darn chilly here by the time you go into Thursday and Friday shown here. And then as we go on through the extended a little bit more, you notice we stay cold here across the northwest portion of North America through the 10-day period there. So we might have some more chances here for a little bit of lowland snowfall. And really, it's tough to pick out details after this next, we want to watch this next system closely and then worry about the details after that as we go, because confidence is going to be very low. But the overall signal is a chilly one here as we go on through the 10-day period. Now, looking at Seattle here, if we look at some of the record low temperatures are generally mid-20s about this time of year here. So we're going into next week. There's a couple back in 2011 and 1962, 20, and 18. But we do have kind of an outside chance of hitting one of those record lows as we go on towards Thursday and Friday. We'll watch that as we get a little bit closer as well. Now, taking a look here, this is Seattle-Tacoma. This is total snow plume. And you can see a lot of these ensemble members are less than half an inch. The mean is about a half an inch. The control showing a bit more for Seattle. And only one ensemble member out of the entire 50 shows more than 3 inches of snow for Seattle here coming up here. So we're not expecting a big snowfall, at least with this first round here. Things can still change, and there can still be big snowfalls maybe coming up later or, at least a couple inches or so. We'll see how that trends off into the extended. But looking at Spokane International here, you can see not too bad of a signal. They're showing 2 to 3 inches here coming up as you go on in through Wednesday into Thursday shown here. And some of the ensembles a little bit higher. And you can see most of the ensembles do have some measurable snowfall falling for Spokane here as we go on in through midweek. This is for Portland International. You can see the half-inch line is right there. The mean shows just, maybe just more than a half an inch there. You can see pretty good spread between the ensembles there, between 2 inches and nothing there, basically, with a lot of these ensembles kind of generally less than an inch for the Portland area. This is Boise here. Look at calling up for close to 2 inches here. I don't know if you should expect that much here, but it does show that potential for some snowfalls. You start in through Tuesday afternoon coming up here. So more on that as we get closer. You see, we still have some time before we get to this event. It's still only Saturday, and this is going to be coming in on Tuesday. Vancouver International Airport, the trajectory does not look great for snowfall up there. You can see pretty low amounts in all the ensemble members here. Kind of a dry outflow condition up there is going to exist here. And that low is probably going to be too far away to bring significant snowfall, at least for this round for Vancouver, but we'll watch that through the extended as we go. Now, taking a look at what's coming up here in the winds. So we got some windy periods coming up here as well. So let's go ahead and speed through into Monday. You can see some decent westerly flow coming down the Strait of Juan de Fuca here as you go on in through Sunday night into Monday morning here, and then some stronger winds start to come across the region here, and it might get gusty across some of the Puget Sound as well. Gusts to 40 are possible, but down the Strait of Juan de Fuca, there's some gusts 60 miles per hour, and it can get all the way across Whidbey Island there with some 50 plus mile per hour gusts here. Strong onshore flow ripping across the area there. We're also going to have a few convergence zones probably setting up, enhancing some snowfall across the Cascades as well. Now taking a look at what's coming after that, though, you can see the winds relax, though, and start to go offshore. And look at this big wind reversal here as this outflow wind comes pouring out of the Fraser River Valley there. And then the northerlies come down the Puget Sound. You can almost see that little upper level low spin there. So you can't rule out some snowfall still across western Washington, western Oregon here as we go on in through Wednesday morning. We'll be watching this little feature closely. It does not take much to really cause disruptive snowfall. Seattle officially measured 0.4 of an inch on Monday when the airport was really hampered by that snowfall. I mean, it caused huge delays and tarmac delays. We had diversions, we had convective activity. And the National Weather Service did not talk about that convection in advance. It did not talk about those impacts that the snow can have at SeaTac. And then people woke up the next morning and there was probably about an inch of snow on the ground, frozen solid, and it was a travel disruption across the area there as well. So we got to watch these features closely. I know it seems to get downplayed a lot, but if you're trying to fly out on Monday, it was no joke. And we had a lot of lightning strikes, we had snowfall. I know they only recorded 0.4 of an inch, but SeaTac had a good inch of snow on the ground. Their snow measurement area is compromised there. I live in Normandy Park. I had 0.8 of an inch, and driving around, you could tell there was more at SeaTac. So there were over an inch of snow there. And so we need to watch these features very closely here as we go on in through Wednesday into Thursday coming up. Now, this is 10-meter accumulated max wind gusts. We're just kind of looking to see what kind of winds we can expect. But you can see some of these winds up towards 60 miles per hour with that westerly surge as you go on in through Monday night, shown there on into Tuesday morning. I mean, some pretty good 50-mile-per-hour gusts raking across Whidbey Island there towards Marysville out there as well. And then you're going to turn, there's also going to be some strong outflow winds that could be gusting up towards the mid and upper 40s as we go on through the midweek portion there too, as the outflow winds really start to come across the area as the Arctic air starts to spread across Pacific Northwest. This is Seattle-Tacoma. You can see the ensemble mean getting up towards 40 miles per hour here as you go on in through Monday night coming up here. So outside chance of a windstorm coming up here, blustery conditions expected. But look at Port Angeles up there. A lot of gusts here on the ensembles, up over 50 miles per hour with that powerful westerly surge as you go through Monday, probably Monday afternoon into Monday night shown there. Now, this is Friday Harbor. Look at this westerly surge here, and then look at the outflow winds with some pretty hefty gusts there as we go on in through Wednesday as these strong outflow winds are going to be ripping across the area there. A lot of these ensembles are over 50, even 60 miles per hour there. So that is something to watch. We'll pay attention to that over the next couple of days as well. This is Orcas Island, similar picture there. Some strong westerlies, southwesterlies coming through the region there, and then the strong outflow winds as the Arctic air moves over the Pacific Northwest. This is Mount Baker ski area here. This is going to be with the arrival of that system as it traverses the Arctic high, and this would kind of be a southwesterly, westerly flow across the higher terrain there. This is Whidbey Island. This is that westerly surge there. Look at all these ensembles above 50 miles per hour, and the ensemble mean is up towards 50 miles per hour. The control calling for 53. So some pretty strong winds coming down across the Strait of Juan de Fuca here. And this is actually showing up, Monday night into Tuesday morning shown there. So we'll watch for the timing of that as we get closer. And this again was the 100-meter wind speed. We looked at that already. This is the risk of hazardous temperatures as we go on into the February 25th through March 3rd. You can see there is some high across Pacific Northwest here. And some of this moderate and slight does exist down into California as well. Now, looking at heavy precipitation, we'll watch these storms as they come in one by one here. There is we're going to remain active here through early March here, so we'll just watch that as we go. Risk of heavy snow for the Cascades down through the Siskiyous, all the way into the Sierra Nevada. The Intermountain West could get some rounds of heavy snow through early March as well. This is the high winds here too, so just kind of showing that the West will remain active. This is the drought monitor right now. As you can see, Washington State, this was put out February 16th. The data is actually valid on the 14th here, but you can see the abnormally dry across a little bit of Washington State, but no drought as of right now. We will take it, but Oregon not doing so well, as you still have that exceptional drought across portions of these slopes of Oregon down there. And hopefully we can, bring some more rounds of storms through in this active period here through the next 2 weeks or so to places like California, Utah, Nevada, where they're still experiencing some severe drought out there. This is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, February 23rd to 27th. Big bullseye here along the West Coast. 8 to 14 days, similar there. This was issued yesterday. This is 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook here. I'm going to do a California brief after this. I'll take a look at what values are going to come for Southern California there, but you can see the bullseye, including some of the Southwest there. And this was issued yesterday as well. Weeks 3 to 4 temperature outlook. This goes all the way in through mid-March, and you can see the Pacific Northwest generally below average here, and you can see some of the northern plains there as well. We'll see how that turns out. Weeks 3 to 4 precipitation outlook, and you can see above average signal there for Pacific Northwest also. This was also issued a couple days ago as well. The monthly temperature outlook for March 2023, Pacific Northwest, all the way down towards California to the North Plains, below average. La Nina does not want to go quietly here. I know the water is warming up there across the ocean, but the atmosphere doesn't like to just flip its switch that quick. Those La Nina effects can be felt all the way into spring sometimes. Now, monthly precipitation outlook, you can kind of see the Pacific Northwest, a little bit of a bullseye there as well. And this is the seasonal temperature outlook all the way March, April, and May. And you can see that below average signal for some of the northern states, including Washington, portions of Oregon there as well, Idaho, Montana. And this is the precipitation signal, kind of below average here through March, April, May across the Southwest. So yeah, we'll just continue to watch this system come in here. I'm interested to see what today's European run shows, and because you're gonna make it tough for yourself, I think, if you go against the European. But the NAM and some of the Canadian, maybe the Icon model, the German model, kind of showing still a little bit better trajectory. So I'm interested to see if maybe the European will flip back to a more favorable pattern for a little bit of low-end snow across western portions here. But we'll see how that goes. We still have a couple days to look at this coming up, and we will start to focus a little bit more on exact snowfall amounts and which areas might see some snowfall, especially west of the Cascades, eastern Washington, some of the lower elevations as well. We'll pay a little bit more attention to that as we get closer here. But yeah, you can see the ridge out here across Pacific Ocean clearly dominating here. That's going to back up. That's what's going to allow some of this cold air to finally reach down across the region here, keeping us pretty chilly on in through February. So maybe we'll have to wait for a March for some springtime temperatures to arrive here in the Pacific Northwest. But anyway, yeah, hope you guys are having a good day. Click like, subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll do this again tomorrow.